Sairam. Sairam, everyone. Firstly, I offer my humble salutations to Swami, respected elders, fellow brothers and sisters. Sairam once again to all of you. So I know I've been given 30 minutes of time to kind of share some of the Swami's experiences that were while we were students that we had experienced, and also when Swami had visited our home. As I often think, more importantly, while we are Swami's devotees, how much of that we have been able to apply into our day-to-day life. I was just thinking of taking only one particular sentence or the 4 words that Swami always says, and probably try and attempt to dwell upon it. And I invoke Swami in our discussions, or at least in our talk today. The one that I wanted to kind of look at is the love all, serve all, right? Which is very famous world over. And everybody speaks about love all, serve all. And so my question to all of us that we should probably ask ourselves is, what is the actual meaning of love all, serve all? Do we really mean when we say love all, serve all? Or is it really possible to love all? Or is it something, it's a nice quote, but it's on a wish list that maybe we will get there one day? Or is it something to look at the work environment? Is it easy to love our boss? And especially in the kind of work that we do, I mean, I head the business. So for me, the question that I ask myself is it easy to love my competitor with whom I fight deals and negotiations against my competition? Is it really possible to love them? So, while I ponder about this several times, and because this is what bothers me, right? What does it take to love all in the true sense? And while we think about it, even to first look at what is love all about. I know we have heard from Swami. Swami is the epitome of love. And in fact, those of you who might know him, he is one blessed being who is able to see the aura of people. And when he had visited Puttaparthi, he had seen the pink aura, which was spreading all over the place, all over Prashanthi Nilayam, while Swami stepped out of his room. So he was the one, in fact, he very nicely said that he calls Swami as love walking on 2 feet. Now, Swami has exhibited a lot of times in numerous ways of how and what love is to be seen, felt, and experienced as well. So, and as we all know, right, Swami explains this and tries to put this in words. So if you were to understand what is that love and how does that become a divine love, and what does this mean, a pure love, as per Swami's words, Swami has put this into something called characteristics. There are characteristics of this divine love. And Swami took an example of a triangle. Now, triangle has got 3 sides. So that's how Swami says love also has to be experienced and practiced with these 3 words that Swami had explained. The first one being selflessness. The second one is fearlessness. And the third is the changelessness. Now, what is being selfless? What is being fearless? And what is changeless, if you have to really practice this? So I'll probably take an example of this, of being selfless. So in fact, Swami in his own example that he had one day told in a speech was, I believe once while Krishna and Arjuna were walking, and there was a big gold mountain. So Krishna looked at Arjuna and said, Arjuna, why don't you dig that gold and distribute it to the whole village so that there are no poor people in village? So Arjuna went there. He had called all the villagers. He had made them stand in line. And there was so much of commotion in the village because suddenly there's a distribution of gold. And so people were fighting among themselves. Arjuna was finding it so difficult to tell them to stand in line, otherwise he will not be able to do it. He was frantically running around to see how should he distribute this. Then he started, digging the gold, but it was very difficult for him to control the crowd. And so he had to really lose his temper and try his best to distribute. After some time, he gave up. He came to Krishna and said, he fell at his feet and said, Lord Krishna, I'm sorry, I can't do this. It's very difficult to manage people. So Krishna smiled, and when he looked on the other side, Karna, I believe, was passing by. And Krishna called Karna and said the same thing. Hey, why don't you distribute this gold to all of the villagers so that there's no poor people in the village? And Karna stood there. He called all the villagers and said, here is a mountain of gold. Please go and take as much as you want. And then he continued his walk. So what does this example tells us? That when you have the riches or when you have a task given to you, we should be as detached as possible from that as well. So that's a beautiful way of how Swami had put this together, right? And the one other example that I think about, going back to going to my parents and my grandparents. My grandfather was a mica miner. So those of you who don't know mica is one of the minerals which is used as a refractory material. So this was in India, it was one of the biggest exporters. And my grandfather was the owner of mica mines. So this was in early 1940s. So while he was a mica miner and doing a roaring business of export of mica all over the world, supposed to be one of the richest in those times. One such day, I was told that, there is somebody who came, the collector, those days we used to call the collector of the place, who had come down, and for whatever the reasons, he had shut down the mica mines and said that they cannot dig anymore. And this was about 1,000 acres of land in which the mining was going on. So they had shut down the complete mines and said that they cannot do this work anymore. And all the laborers asked to go back home. So that was when it was a very big shock to my grandfather and the whole family, because that was the biggest business that they have ever run. And that was the breadwinner as well for the family. So the only option that they had in those days, and then also my grandfather being devotee of Swami then, so he had kind of closed down everything in Nellore that they were in, and took his family, went to Puttaparthi. So he stayed there for a week, and second week as well. So almost at the end of the second week, Swami came to him, I believe, and asked him, and his name was Babu Naidu. He said, Babu Naidu, why are you here? Why didn't you go back to Nellore and take care of your mines? Then my grandfather did not want to tell Swami what had happened, but Swami insisted for him to go back. But then he said, then finally he opened up and told Swami, this is what has happened. I have nothing today. And all the mines are locked up now, they're closed. And so the reason I'm feeling so bad today is that it's not about me. It's about those 2,000 laborers and 2,000 families who are working in my fields, in the mines. Today, they don't have livelihood. And that is what bothers me, Swami. Then I believe Swami just looked up once and then said, okay, Babu Naidu, do one thing. I know, when do you have your next hearing in the court? Then he said, Swami, October 26th. Then Swami said, do one thing, you go back to Nellore and I will take care of it. So my grandfather was, I believe, was a little surprised and said, Swami, it's all done. There's nothing that is going to happen because it is once locked up. It's very difficult to manage the government and the rules, regulations, and the law. It is very difficult. Then Swami smiled at him again, I believe, and said, you go there. And let me tell you one thing. When you go there, when the court calls for your lawyer, your lawyer knowing that you're not going to win, so he wouldn't turn up to the court. So then the judge calls you and asks you to explain. So be fearless, go and talk and explain the whole scenario to them. And after that, I will take care of it. So my grandfather was saying, Swami, you don't know how these courts work. It's not as simple, Swami. And Swami still insisted, I believe, to say, you are leaving to Nellore tomorrow and you're going to be there. So my grandfather reluctantly went to Nellore. And on that day, as Swami said, in the court, when they called for the lawyer, my grandfather's lawyer didn't turn up. Then the judge calls him and asks him to explain. And my grandfather explains to him the whole thing on the background and all of the things that he had to share in the court. And I believe after that, judge has pulled the whole file. And then he opens up the file and he just flips a few pages. And then he puts his hand between his eyes and then closes his eyes for a few seconds. And all the crowd, I believe, were watching him. What is this judge doing? So then after a few seconds, he opens his eyes and then again looks at the paper. And then he says the verdict that he's given, saying, this particular Mica mines cannot be locked up or cannot be closed by a collector. If there is any issue, it has to be done by mines inspector. And collector has no right to do this. So I declare these mines to be opened right now, starting today. And he puts a stamp, gives it to my grandfather and says, congratulations, you can open up your mines. My grandfather, without even getting to anyone and talking to people, he immediately rushes to Puttaparthi falls at Swami's feet. Then Swami had actually narrated the whole thing to him. See, didn't the judge open the file? After 3 pages, didn't he close his eyes? After that, what he spoke is what I spoke. It is not the judge. And my grandfather was profusely crying at Swami's feet and saying, Swami, thank you, thank you, thank you. And, so I didn't believe when you said Swami. Then Swami suddenly took a different shape altogether and said, look at me, Babulan, look at my face, look into my eyes. You know why I did this? If you recollect that day, when I asked you, why are you here? You didn't ask for yourself. You didn't ask for your family, your well-being of your family. The first thing that what you said, Swami, there's 2,000 families today are without food. When I heard that, then the divinity will play its role. That's how I have to step in, because you asked for this 2,000 families and not for you. So there's a great, great lesson when we think about this, of how the divinity plays its role when we are not asking for ourselves, but asking for the higher good of people. Now, that is what is being completely selfless. So there are many, many such examples. I mean, I had several of these things that have happened to my own, the way we run our centers, the way we manage our business. Now, one such example was, for my business, I travel all over the world. One of those travels, when I was actually traveling within the US, and we had actually taken a project as a Sai Center, Chelmsford Sai Center, a project called, to serve the Perkins School for Blind in Boston. There are about 150 children, the children who are blind. They were moving from one facility to another facility. So we had got a request from them saying, hey, if you have any volunteers, we are looking for about 20 of them, who could help pack all the items, be it the books, the library, the shelves of the children, and then label them, put them into boxes. And this was to happen for 4 weeks, the Saturday, Sunday, the 4 weekends rather, the Saturdays and Sundays as well. I mean, all the 8 days that we're talking about. So this service project was to kick on that particular Saturday morning, and I was traveling the previous day. And I landed from SFO to Washington, DC, finished my meeting, then got to the airport. Then I knew I had about an hour and a half for my next flight to Boston. And that was at about 6:15 or so. And I was at least about an hour and a half early to the gate. Then I said, okay, there's another, a lot more time. So I opened up my laptop and I was just working. While I was doing that, for about a half an hour later, I suddenly heard one thud sound. So when I looked back, and there was actually a lady who was running to the gate, and she slipped and fell, and her suitcase had opened. So I immediately left my laptop and my bag there, just immediately jumped there and try and help her, pull her up, put all her things into the suitcase. And she was like feeling embarrassed, and she didn't know what was happening. And she was saying, hey, I'm so sorry, I don't know what's happening, blah, blah. I said, no, don't worry, just calm down, all is well. So please, here is your bag. And, so I put her in but she got slight bruise, and I said, let me help you. So I told the lady at the gate saying, hey, you know what, can I drop her off in the flight and come so that she's comfortable? She said, oh yeah, sure, no problem. So I carried the suitcase to the, inside the plane, made her sit comfortably, put the suitcase, and then I got back. So the lady who was watching my bag, so I thanked her and then sat down and I was working. After some time, then I was kind of puzzled. What happened to my flight? And they have not announced, and now it's only about under 15 more minutes. Maybe the gate has changed. So I just rushed to the gate and to the lady and said, hey, you know what, I'm just waiting for the Boston flight. And I didn't hear about it. And for my utter surprise, he said, oh my God, that is your flight. You're supposed to get into that flight. I said, can I get in? She said, I'm sorry, the door is closed. And I said, oh my God, what was I doing? And maybe I was so engrossed in my work that I didn't hear this announcement. She said, I'm sorry, I saw what you did. The only thing that I could do is to book you for tomorrow morning flight, because there's no other flight now. They're all full. So first flight in the morning tomorrow at 7 o'clock, I'll give you the ticket and I'll not charge you because I saw what you did. Then I asked her, is this the only option? She said, yes. I said, okay, if that's the only option, let me take it. So I took the boarding pass for the next morning flight, and I was walking out. I said, let me go out. And I was just thinking, okay, maybe I'll rent a car, maybe get you into a hotel. As I was thinking about this and walking, suddenly this thought came, hey, you know what? How about tomorrow morning? Because I was supposed to leave in the morning, 5 a.m. from my house. And I was having all the labels. I was having the boxes. I was to load my van and take all this. And suddenly that thought came, who's going to do it now? Whom should I tell this to? Then the immediate thought that came was, Swami, this is your work. It's not my work. Now it's your reputation, Swami, not mine. There is somebody who has to do this. So what do I do now? The moment I said that, then this lady called me, Mr. Makkena. And I looked back, can you come here quickly? Then I ran. I was about 15 feet away. And I ran back and said, what's the matter? She said, there's a flight which was supposed to leave at 5 p.m. and we got technical challenges, technical problem. It did not take off and there's only one seat. If you want, I can get you onto it. I said, fantastic, right? So immediately I took the boarding pass and she said, how fast can you run? This is a test for you. And it was about 10 gates away. So I literally ran, got into the plane. I said, thank God. Thanks, Swami, and said, okay. So, but the story is not over, right? So I then got down in Boston. When I landed in Boston, I was getting down the escalator. So there was a crowd down near the baggage area. And they were saying, sir, which flight did you come? I said, yeah, Washington, DC. They said, which one? And I said, why don't you look at the monitor? See, here is the monitor. And I showed them the monitor. To my surprise, the flight that I could have probably gotten at 6:15 is canceled. And the previous flight that I got in is what I came in. So what it tells us time and again, that when we think about the higher good and not about ourselves and do the service selflessly, it is him who will take care of it. We don't have to bother. Right? There's a number of times that when Swami steps in, when we leave it to him to handle. So that's where when we talk about selfless and how do we develop this selfless quality in itself. So that's when Swami talks about it, and he simply puts it, love oneself. Like you have to love yourself first. And then only you can love others. Just like how Swami, very easily and simple, with a simple example, he says, we should wear, anybody who wears a blue glasses, he would see the world blue, right? So anybody wears green glass, he will see the world green. So similarly, if we were to wear ourselves as the pure love glass, and if we are that, automatically what you'll see, the world is also pure. So now getting to the next is fearless. So when we spoke about selflessness, and when we talk about fearless, we don't have to fear. The moment we give it to God and do this and surrender to God, I don't think we should worry about anything. So there is, I'm just thinking about, well, there's several of these examples, but I'm just telling you one of this. So when one day when I was going for a meeting in the morning, so there was at one stretch, this single road, and it's only 50 miles per hour road. And I had to hit, and there was quite a bit of traffic, which is unexpected, and on a working day in the morning, and this was previous COVID time frame. When I was going, and I was trying to make it at least 55 in that road, try to cover some distance faster. And at one point, I was actually felt that I was going to get delayed for the meeting. And I started praying to Swami. Swami, you got to help me today. I have to be there by 9. I better be there by 9, right? And then I was trying my best to keep pace. And all of a sudden, I see a guy who just comes from a side road, just right in front of me. And I was trying to make it 55, 60 in that road. Suddenly, this guy slows me down to 45 in a 50-mile road. I was like literally shouting, oh my God, Swami, what is this? Why do you have to do this? And I'm telling you that I was praying to you to get me faster. And this guy is completely slowed me down. What is wrong? As I was saying this and yelling, and when I look on the side, I see a police car standing there with the radar. They said, oh, Swami, yeah, I know you're great, Swami. You're great. You're really great. I know you're always with me, right? So, these things, right? There's so many such experiences that today when we surrender to him, we just leave it and forget it. We don't have to worry it. So he is the person who will take care. So there's one other instance, my grandmother's sister, who used to live in Kakinada, and this is a place in Andhra Pradesh, if you don't know. She was a very ardent devotee of Swami. And her husband was quite opposite to that. If he gets to know that there's a bhajan going on, he will ensure he will not let his wife go there. And it so happened, I believe, one day that Swami actually visited Kakinada, and she was ardently praying because Swami, this man will not allow me to go to Puttaparthi. Now you better come to Kakinada and see that I'm there. I have to see you. And she had not seen Swami till then. When she heard from my grandmother and all of the relatives, she had not seen him. So, and she was profusely praying and said, Swami, you better come and ensure that I see you, right? And I believe Swami came to Kakinada and he was giving speech in a hall, and she was trying all her best to get out of the hall with some excuse or the other, and she couldn't manage. And because this man got to know that Swami is in town, he was sitting right at the entrance of the house and seeing, guarding the house so that she doesn't go out. At about 8 p.m. in the evening, and all of a sudden the power went off. And this man immediately got up and said, hey, let me check what has happened. And he took his flashlight and said, he went back of the house to look at, hey, is the fuse gone? That's when Swami steps into the house. And Swami immediately goes directly to the puja room, sits with my grandmother's sister, all that prasad, and she had actually made dinner for Swami. Swami eats that prasad, that the food, blesses her, and Swami steps out of the house, gets into the car, the power comes back again. So this is the power of prayer. This is the power of fearlessly praying to Swami and asking, seeking him, and he will be there, right? There are multiple such things of examples. Now, coming to the last topic of what is being changeless. The changeless is, Swami has demonstrated in multiple, many different ways of being a water project for thousands of people. He didn't look at what caste, what religion, what they are. Swami said, I am going to this project, and without having any money in the trust, and we were the students then, so we know it very well, of what it means when you take up a project of that nature. So when Swami did this project and provided water for thousands of people, and I believe that one day all of these villagers came and they cried in front of Swami and thanking him, saying, Swami, you are our God, and thank you so much for providing us water, which had never happened, and we have been struggling for lack of water. Then Swami said, why do you have to thank me? Because I did not do anything that any favor to you guys, because I did this for myself. So that's when Swami says, I separated myself from myself to love myself, is the truest meaning of what Swami told them. That I quenched my thirst, I did not quench your thirst. Right? So that's how beautifully, how Swami puts this. And so I know we have just a couple more minutes. I will probably end with just one other story. This was when I was in 6th grade, when I just joined Puttaparthi for schooling. We are very few, both the college and the school students put together. We are hardly about 100 or less than 100, maybe 95 of them. So it was one such days that it was called a solar eclipse. Then Swami immediately in the morning darshan, he said, all children, you should not be outside. Sun rays should not fall on you. All of you should get into Purnachandra Auditorium. And he had called volunteers. He said, cover all those, the shutters, because even on top of the shutter, there's a small gap from where the sunlight could come in. He said, take newspapers or cloth, cover all of those as well. So it was a big activity for all of us, for all students. So we all got into the Purnachandra Auditorium, and Swami told, bring whatever games you want. Your, maybe a bed if you guys want to sleep, but you're going to be there for 4 hours minimum. Right? So all of us got in there with a lot of excitement. And all this work was done to cover the whole Purnachandra Auditorium, all those shutters and everything, that lights were turned on. Then while we were playing games and chatting and all of that, for all of us surprise, Swami came into Purnachandra Auditorium. And because Swami used to live in that mandir where now the Swami Sannidhi was, but then for our surprise, we saw Swami in that huge blue curtains, the velvet curtains had just then opened in Swami, and we all were surprised. All of us ran to Swami. And Swami smiled, and he was chatting with everyone and friendly, and say, what games are you playing? Now let me also play these games. And he was looking at all of us, and then looking at what type of games we are playing. Then at one point in time, he said, hey, where are volunteers? So he called volunteers and said, bring those boxes, bring those boxes. So they got some boxes. We thought, okay, something Swami is giving us. So we all stood in lines, and then Swami told volunteers distribute those. And to our surprise, there were small boxes, some were big boxes. So volunteers distributed all of this to us. And when something is given to us, we firstly we ensure that we get one. Then our focus is on Swami. What is Swami? Where is Swami going? Which side is he coming from? How close can we be physically, at least, to him? Right. So, but we all that we had to ensure is we had something in our hand, which Swami was giving. So we had got that. Then when we are looking at Swami, then Swami stood there. Okay, then he looked at all of us and said, did everybody get everything? I mean, each one of you got a box? He said, yes, Swami, all of us got. Is there anybody who has not got anything? And everybody were quiet. And Swami said, yes, I think all of you have got. Okay, why didn't you all open? And so we opened and saw. And when I looked at it, hey, you know what? Here is a toothbrush that I got. Wow, what is this? So maybe it's an American toothbrush, maybe, right? So which was supposed to be posh. So then I said, oh, maybe so. Then I looked up Swami, and like each one of them opened it, and then looking at Swami. Then Swami said, hey, see this guy, he's got a razor. Hey, this guy's got sunglasses. So Swami started saying that, everybody started comparing at each other's what they have in their hand. So somebody's got something different than what this person had. And we were kind of looking at, everybody's keeping aside what we had in our hand. Then one boy took courage and then went to Swami and said, see, Swami, I don't have beard growing. I don't want a razor. Can I get maybe a toothbrush? And Swami looked at it and smiled and said, okay, why don't you guys give him a brush? It's right thing that what he's saying. One more person took strength and went to Swami and said, Swami, I don't want toothbrush, Swami, I want sunglasses. And Swami said, okay, give him sunglasses, just take this toothbrush back. So this commotion was going on. Everybody trying to exchange. These were big boxes. They put everything down from the boxes. Children were going there, picking up what they want, dropping what they have in their hand. Swami was watching all of this, standing there, smiling. And there's a small group of students who are happy with what they have. They're just sitting around Swami because they got what they wanted, and they picked up what they want. After all this, Swami was laughing, and then he thoroughly enjoyed. Then he slowly stepped back. He climbed up the steps. There are about 6 steps from Purchandra Auditorium to climb to the stage. So Swami went up there. Then from there, Swami asked, is everybody happy? Under Santoshama. And all boys, Santosham, Swami, Santosham. Swami asked again, is everybody happy? Right? Then all of us said, Swami, Santosham, Swami, Santosham. Then Swami again said, really happy? Are you guys really happy? So Santosham, then everybody said, yes, Swami, yes, Swami. Then Swami smiled. And suddenly there was a change in Swami's face. He went close to the curtain. He opened the curtain. And then he said, Santosham, Santosham. He said. And then in his face, I could see that. He said, not even one of you. And Swami said this again, not even one of you have asked for Swami. He looked straight into the boy's eyes. And we all actually climbed up the stairs and, closer to Swami. And Swami said, and he repeated this 3 times, not even one of you has asked for Swami. He closed the curtain. Thank you. So that is what today, when we think about it, all of us run for the creation and forgetting about the creator. So when we have Swami with us, we have the whole world. If we have to become selfless, fearless, and changeless, we have Swami with us. We have abundance with us. So when we have that abundance, why can't we love all? That's a question that we should all ask ourselves. So with that, thank you once again for giving me this opportunity. And wish everybody and all of us take back a message that we will follow the love all, serve all in the truest, purest form as Swami taught us. With that, sign off.